What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today is a really big day. I'm going to do a little bit of a build update and we're going to go in installing a few things. But I have a lot to share with you guys because, as you can see, we got the engine put in, which is a huge stride for us. Really good move in the right direction. Also, let me flip the camera around. All right, so first things first, to get this thing to sit down in here, you guys are going to have to take the AC compressor off. It won't clear your ABS module. It gets in the way. Like you see in the video just before this, it's easy enough to put on after the fact. All right, so next up, as far as mounting goes, the motor mount is going to go through the forward hole on your K-member, at least if you're running a UPR K-member setup. I went through the forward mount hole and I used the 3/8 of an inch motor mount spacers and 3/8 of an inch K-member spacers. There is a dimple on the motor mount itself that you guys are going to have to grind flat to get it to work for this application. The 461 lines up a little bit differently. But yeah, you're going to end up having to run that spacer because it is really tight right here for your rack and pinion to fit. As you can see, it looks pretty good right now. We don't have this all tightened up yet. We're going to come back through and tighten all that stuff up. But running that motor mount through the forward hole gets you in a little bit better of a position for your trans mount. The stock T45 and I'm sure the TR3650 mount won't work with the T56. Maybe the TR3650 one will work. I'm not sure what they look like or how they would fit, but the T56 is a little bit longer. Again, like I was saying, we're running a T56 6-speed from an 04 Cobra in here. And I ended up going with a Stifler's trans mount. It's a little bit thinner. I'm hoping it's not, all the reviews that I read online said it wasn't, too stiff and it didn't create too much vibration. But, we'll see once we get everything going. Yes, it never hurts to be a little bit tighter back here. But the instructions were super good. This actually works. This mount itself is actually universal. It works with a lot of different applications. And I think it was like 150 or 160 bucks. So I would definitely recommend this if you guys are going to be running the T56. The 04 Cobra ones, they don't make the factory trans mount anymore. So you guys are going to have to go aftermarket. And this seemed like the only real option that I could find. And it was a really good one. So I would definitely do this again if I was going to do this exact setup. And this is the name of the company. And these are all of the transmissions that this will work with. So you have your C4, TH350, Power Glides, T5s, TKOs, AOD, AODE, 4R70W, T45, TR3650, T56, and then T45 Cobra specs. It says it will not work with the T56 Viper spec or the GT500 specs. So just remember that one. But it goes through and it shows you like every transmission that you have. It tells you the exact setup it wants you to use for your mounts. And then this company also offers a drive shaft loop. If you guys want to run a drive shaft loop, maybe you're running a bunch of horsepower and going to the track and it's required, or you just want to do it for added safety. And if they say in here, if you're going to be running the drive shaft loop, then they tell you how to set it up differently on this side here. So yeah, definitely a good company. Would totally recommend them if you guys are going to be running a T56. If you have an 04 Cobra even and you guys were looking for an upgrade, this seemed like one of the only options that I could find. And then if you guys are doing a Coyote swap with the T56, I would definitely choose this company here. So now for everybody wondering, I actually went through the top with the motor and then went underneath with the trans later on. I didn't put this thing in as a whole assembly. I know a lot of people will pick up the whole front of the car and lower it down onto the whole engine and trans assembly. I wanted to do it a little bit differently. So I went through the top with the engine, and I wouldn't say it was the easiest thing in the world, but I don't think it was very hard to drop the engine down in there. I would recommend what I felt like was the easiest, especially if you have just an extra set of hands. I pulled the K-member off of the car completely. It's only, 8 bolts. So if you pull all those A-bolts off, pull the K-member off, drop this thing down in there so you won't have any sort of header clearance issues with that. You can pretty much just go straight down and then go back. And then pick up the K-member after the fact, bolt it onto the engine, and then pick the whole assembly up as a one and bolt it to the body. I felt like that was easier than trying to, the first time I had to like finagle it past all the headers and the oil pan and stuff, and it just didn't seem like it fit very well. So if I was to go through the top again, I'd probably just leave that K-member off and put it on after the fact and then bring it up as a whole assembly. And then for going through the bottom with the transmission, I would say that's actually harder than putting the engine through the top alone. The transmission was the hardest part of the whole thing. I would not, and I don't even think you could, I wouldn't attempt to put the bell housing and the transmission on down below. I would make sure you guys leave that bell housing on when you put the engine down into its home, and then mate the transmission to the bell housing. For those of you who don't know, T56s, a lot of Tremix. I know the T45, and I'm not sure about the TR3650, but the T45, you couldn't detach the transmission from the bell housing, but on the T56s, you can. So we attached, let me flip the camera here. We left the bell housing, as you can see it down in there. We left it attached to the engine, dropped it in as one whole unit, and then it's just a few bolts and a lot easier to get to mount that transmission to the bell housing after you get it down in there. But all in all, if you guys have access to a lift, I would just drop the car down onto the whole assembly. That would be a million times easier. I don't have that option here up at my parents'. I do have the option to use a lift, but we're doing the build here at my house, so I don't have that luxury. But if you guys do, definitely just drop the car onto the whole assembly, mount it up that way. That would be a million times easier. But for us, anybody who's wondering whether or not you can go through the top with the engine and then go through the bottom with the transmission, it is doable. So now on to the next issue that we ended up having with the Holley. So I started already running some of the wires for the Holley, and this is actually for the new system. So it turns out I started doing the wiring once I got it in here with the old Holley that I had, and everything was working out just fine except for the cam phasers, this one and this one, obviously the ones on the other side. But these plugins right here on the front of the engine for your cam phasers, they weren't working. The connector was completely different for the Holley that I had. And it turns out Holley sells two different kits. One is for the 11 to 12, and then one is for the 13 to 15 for the Gen 1 Coyotes. That's how they label it on there. But this engine, I was told when I got it, was a 2011. And then turns out these cam phasers that I have, and then after doing a little bit more research with the Holley technician, that this is actually a 2013 engine. This is aftermarket. It's not a Boss 02 engine. I just threw the intake on there. But yes, the engine itself is actually a 2013, which is nice because it's a little bit newer. But Holley wouldn't accept just me exchanging that one harness, because there was only one harness different between the 11s and 12s and then the 13s to 15s. But they wouldn't do a one-for-one exchange. They told me I had to either buy the harness, which is like $350, or exchange the entire Holley system for a new Holley system. And then that's where our issues started. So that's kind of like where the issue started to become, and why I haven't been posting a lot lately. I've been behind a little bit on videos, but we've also been waiting for the Holley system for a while. So I exchanged the kit. I had them order me the 13 to 15 Gen 1 Coyote Holley Terminator X kit, and they told me it would ship out in like a few weeks. A few weeks came by, and then they extended it out another month. And I didn't really want to wait a whole nother month, so I contacted them. And I asked them about the Holley Terminator X Max kit, which said it would ship in like 3 days. So I ended up canceling the Terminator X order for the 13 to 15, and I ended up going with a 13 to 15 Holley Terminator X Max, and it actually just came in recently. Now the differences between the Terminator X and the X Max, is about a $350 difference, which kind of sucks. It puts that system at about $2,900 or just a little bit over $2,900. So not cheap, especially when you're comparing it to the Ford Performance Control Pack. But it does have some features that the Ford Performance one doesn't have. Also, between the two, just the X and the X Max, the X Max can do drive-by-wire. The X can only do drive-by-cable. And then the X Max also has transmission control options. So this thing can control a transmission now. But for us, obviously, it doesn't matter. We're running a T56, so that feature is kind of a throwaway. But I guess it does add some value if I ever sell the car in the future, and maybe somebody wants to turn it into a drag car or something. I can tell them, you know, you just got to buy a harness and you guys can run an automatic transmission. And the trans mount's already set up for running multiple different automatic transmissions. So, you know, it sucks, but to pay the $350 and be able to run, you know, the factory throttle body and, you know, have another option isn't terrible. It's not, you know, all in vain. And, you know, none of this is Holley's fault, guys. I will take 100% responsibility for it. I was told that the engine was for an 11. That's why I ordered the kit for that. And it ended up being a 13, which sucks. And it delayed. I'm not sure if at the time when I ordered the first kit, if the 13 to 15 kit was also on back order. But even in comparison to the Ford control packs, Holley is a lot quicker with shipping these, so it is an advantage. I know that I didn't really want to wait for that second one, and who knows, maybe they just told me a month, because they don't really give you like specifics on your order. They just tell you, oh, if I shipped one today, it wouldn't get to you for another month. So maybe if I would have held out for a few more weeks, my order would have actually shipped. I'm not sure. I don't want to hold that against Holley. For me, I just wanted to get this thing rolling forward, get it done. But yeah. And then also, I understand that the price is a little high for the Holley system. It's like $2,900 and some change. And compared to the Ford control pack, it is really pricey. But for one, right now, you're probably not going to get your hands on the Ford racing control pack anywhere, really. Maybe it's changed more recently, but the first time that I ordered one, because that was the kit that I was initially going to go with, it was like months and months out. And I was like 13th in line out of like 17. And the last one that had shipped was like 8 months before mine. And they were telling me that it was going to ship in like 2 more months. But, you know, that was very unrealistic. I don't know why they were telling me that. But not just the time advantage, but the Holley does, you know, it is a nitrous controller. It's a boost controller, boost by gear. It has a lot of other features that the Ford one doesn't have. And then obviously if you guys want to run any one of Holley's screens, because they have like digital displays for your dash, comes in handy. It does have a screen of its own that runs, you can have different sensors and different parameters put on that screen. So there is a lot of advantages, and that screen does come standard, the little one at least, with the Terminator X package. And I'll show you guys that here in a second. Here's that screen that comes with the Holley system. That would, if you guys want anything like this for the Fords, you're gonna end up having to go with an SCT X4, which is like another, I don't know, $400 I think, or $450. So that is an advantage, and you can change a bunch of stuff on the fly. Diagnostics, you know, you actually get free software tuning for your application. We have a lot of the wiring and stuff already out. The difference, and I did do a review and unboxing on the initial Holley Terminator X. The only difference I can see between the X and the X Max is the X Max comes with a pedal harness to run an electronic pedal. And then the actual ECU itself is a lot bigger than the X module. It's pretty big, because obviously you need to have one whole extra connector if you're going to run a transmission, harness and stuff. And then we also picked up, this is from Holley themselves, it's $100, but this is a under the passenger seat bracket to mount your either your Terminator X or your Terminator X Max. So if you guys are wondering about like mounting options, this is a pretty good one. It's mounts up underneath of this seat. We'll be installing that here soon. And then gives you a nice clean area to put that. We still need to look for a place for this other, the TIVCT module. This one right here. So we're going to have to be looking for a place to mount this one. But we're going to see where it comes off of the harness once we mount the other one. We're going to mount that one and then see where this one comes out in the harness and then find a good place to mount it. But I'll be going through all that stuff in a future video, guys. I just wanted to update you on the wiring situation. And then up under here, guys, we got the starter mounted up in there. We ended up going with a 4.6 starter for this year. The Coyote starter would not work with these headers. There was not enough clearance to get it up in there. So we ended up going with a 4.6 starter. And I know Power by the Hour sells a starter. It's like a mini starter that fits up in there better for, you know, good header clearance. But I think that one's like $250. And I just went to the auto parts store and picked up a 4.6 starter for, I think it was like 160 bucks. So I saved almost 100 bucks. We'll see if this one lasts. And if this one has, you know, the grunt to turn this engine over, I don't see why it wouldn't. But we're going to find that out for you guys. All right, guys. So that's going to end up this video. Here in the next coming videos, I'm going to start getting some of this stuff wired up. I need to get the tank dropped, get the battery relocation done, get everything tucked away under the seat and all the wires put where they need to go. I'll show you guys all of that stuff. We also have the fuel system on the way. I just ordered it today. So we should see that here pretty soon. We're getting closer and closer and closer to getting this thing finally started up and seeing if it runs or has any issues. You know, I got it used, so I don't know too much of the condition of it beforehand. I do know the insides looked really, really nice whenever I had it apart. And it does have new built oil pump gears, so everything should be good on that end. But obviously it's gonna be the first startup for a long time, so I am a little nervous. But if you guys are liking this content, please hit that like button. If you guys wanna see this thing get started up, hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you guys in that next video.